Hi and welcome to my channel. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to one of my all-time favorite drummers, Joe Letz. Now, many of you may already know Joe from his appearances with great bands like Combi Christ, Emigrate and Aesthetic Perfection. I'd only listened to Combi Christ a few times in the gym, but that was enough for me to book a ticket and see them a week later live in Glasgow. I wasn't too familiar with the band, so I had no clue as to what to expect in terms of stage show. Seeing Joe appear fully costumed on stage for the first time gave me a real WTF moment. With his unusual look and wild drumming style, he certainly pulled a lot of focus. He had a strong rapport with the audience and he really put on a show. If you've never seen him drum, allow me to give you a summary of the experience. It's like a cross between anger management and an exorcism. He's like the heavy metal version of a Japanese taiko master. That's the guys with the big drums. Now when he hits those skins, it's hard and furious. You really do risk getting a drumstick to the face if you're near the front row. And I mean, hashtag worth it. But don't let that scary onstage persona put you off. He's actually totally endearing and sweet on his social media with a unique, genuine vulnerability you don't see much online. And if you like cats with thumbs, memes, and wickedly funny Photoshop, you should really be following him. And if you sign up to his Patreon channel, you really get to be part of his more private world. Did I just quote The Little Mermaid? Yeah, I did, and you know what? I stand by it. So without further ado, here's the interview. I would love to say first off, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me. You're literally, apart from Nick from Lord of the Lost, one of my favorite drummers.
Oh, well, thank you very much. That's awesome. Wow.
So let's talk COVID, because I mean, it's a big issue, everybody's talking about it. So since it started and there's no touring, like how would you say that you've pivoted to kind of cope with the situation?
So many things are rushing through my head. I mean, like my life has changed so much in the past 2 years. I definitely, I'm a person who, the music industry isn't what it was like 20 years ago. I started I started professionally touring and stuff probably 16 or 17 years ago now, and I just miss like the days of $1 million record deals and all that stuff. So in a way, I'm kind of thankful because I came in learning that you just need to hustle in order to make a living, and there's a lot of people out there who you don't get paid very much being in bands, the size bands that I'm in, you know what I mean? And the way I always looked at it was like, look, if that isn't enough money for me, for my needs and like my lifestyle, then I need to figure out other ways to generate money, which early on is what saw me beginning my clothing brand, Fuxleep. That was a way for me to generate some money in between tours. And then, if ever I felt that I needed a raise or anything like that, I'm the kind of person that's just like, well, here, like I need to figure out what I'm going to bring to the table in order to warrant getting a cut of that money. You know what I mean? So it's I'm always thinking that way, and also in respect to the fans, like what's going to bring the fans value. Like for example, the VIP stuff that I've always done. I was actually always inspired by this one time. My cousin used to work for Nine Inch Nails, and so I would often go on tour with them here and there when I was off from my touring, just to hang out. And they'd always make a bunk on one of the buses for me, and I get to go. It was one of my favorite bands, And then at the time, my cousin was actually Trent's tech, and so it was a really special like time frame for me to be able to do that, and go hang out with them. And this one time, I showed up to a venue near where I grew up, Jones Beach, right? It's in New York on Long Island, and people weren't really doing meet and greets back then, I remember, and I got there for sound check, and my cousin was like, "Yeah, we're about to sound check. Come up on the stage and like hang out." And I walk up on the stage, and I see like 100 people. The arena, it was like an outdoor amphitheater, and it holds probably like 10,000 people, but there was like 100, 200 people sitting in the front row of seats. And Trent comes out, and the band's there, and he's just like, "Hey guys, like thanks for coming. We're gonna play a few songs for you that we we're not going to play at the show tonight. And I'm just like, what is going on right now? This is insane. Like I asked my cousin about it, and he was like, yeah, they're doing this. They were actually doing it to raise money, for someone who needed like a heart transplant or something at the time. And they were on tour with Jane's Addiction, and they were doing, it was like, so after sound check, I asked Trent all about it, and he was like explaining to me how they run it, and like, you know, and the people get like a little tour of the backstage, and, you know, meet production people, and they get to have a dinner in an area where the band is. And I was just like, this is amazing. If I was a kid and a band that I loved did something like this, I would be all over it, you know? So I was just like, there's gotta be an opportunity here for us to do this, and like, and it would mean so much to the fans. And actually my band and my management at the time was like, they were like, this is the dumbest idea you've ever had. You know, I'm always the guy with the dumb ideas. And they just, and it was fun. It was like the very last day before we were about to leave for the tour. I remember we had Julian Kate opening up for us on this tour, and I was like, and I just wouldn't let up about it. My manager finally goes, you know what, Joe, fine, just go ahead and do it. And if I don't want to know about it. If it fails, then, you know, that's on you, because it's going to, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and I don't know how to make websites or anything. So I just made like a page that said like, we're going to do this and do all this stuff. And then like, if you want to come, PayPal me $100 or whatever it was, and tell me what city you want to come to. And I woke up with $30,000 in my PayPal, and I was like, oh, I guess it's not going to work, you know? And then, yeah. So then, you know, and then I was like, of course, people want to do this. Great. So then I figured out a way to like, you know, I kind of copied Trent's ideas and did like the pre-show show, you know, like the songs we weren't going to play during the show and everything. And my VIP ideas have evolved over the years. You know, we did like a smaller VIP bus, tour bus hang, which I thought was super cool. Cause like, you know, when I was a kid, I always wanted to know what it was like on a tour bus, you know? So we would do like, you know, 21 and over, cause we're all drinking, getting ready for the show. And we would have 5 people on the bus, and they would get ready with their favorite band. You know what I mean? Things like this. And then lately, the last thing that I did with Aesthetic Perfection, which I got to give him credit. He also, I kind of came in hot. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I've known Daniel forever, but I'm like, here I am, you know me, and here are all my ideas. And he's like, all right, let's do some of your ideas. And he goes for it, and we did this new idea I've had forever that I couldn't get anyone on board with, and it's the best thing I ever did. It's it's called speed gaming. What do we call it?
It was speed dating. I remember this. I was gonna come to that show, and you did assembling IKEA furniture and like speed dating, but like with the band, and you were playing games. Like I watched it all on your Instagram. It was so cool. I was like, I want to go to this, but literally I had a work commitment and I couldn't go. I was devastated.
Oh. Yeah, it's like, well, the way I look at it is, I always want to do something a little out of the ordinary, because like a lot of times people come to, well, most bands, they do like a table and all the band's there, and then people line up and they go, and it's like, oh, you have like 10 seconds to like pass a CD around to get it signed, and then like maybe you get an awkward picture and then it's over. And I never wanted people to have that experience with me, you know, so or my band. So I thought, all right, like, what if we each had a different game, a different activity that we did with each person, and they each, like, say there's 20 people and we have an hour, you know, 20 divided by 60, and then like, you know, take off some time for pictures at the end, and there's like a buzzer and everyone switches stations, and it worked great. And that was like the best thing ever, you know. But I feel like I digress really a lot as far as like what your original question was, I know. But my point is, you know, I like sharing about this stuff. You know, not in a bragging way, but like a lot of people out there who want to do music and stuff, and then they finally get into it, and they're like touring with a band that's, you know, opening up for huge bands or something, and they're making like $150 a week, and they're like, what is this? And it's like, you know, you got to be prepared to hustle and like figure out how to like, if you really want to do this and you want to make a living, you got to like, it's all about the side hustles and like figuring out ways to generate enough income to continue doing what you love to do, So for me, when COVID happened, I was coming up on what was to be my busiest year ever. We just finished Aesthetic Perfection just finished a tour with Lindemann. We actually had to fly home 2 days early from the tour. We had to miss a couple of the last shows to begin another tour, and we flew home from Moscow, I think, and then I was home for like a day and a half, and then we flew to California, and within like an hour of picking up our tour vehicle, an hour of like landing, we were picking up our tour vehicle and pulling out of the parking lot, and someone in the van goes, "I think they're shutting the country down." And within an hour, I was like, "This can't be." And Daniel was like, "I knew it. I've been telling you guys for weeks." And I'm like, "You're crazy." Everyone thought, and our booking agents were like, "That's not gonna." No one could have. If you would have told me, a year before that this would have happened, I would have been like, what fucking kind of acid did you take? It's bananas. And so, yeah, so within a couple hours, I was back at the airport flying home, and, we kept thinking, maybe it's going to just be a week, maybe it's just going to be a month. And then like kept kind of trying to push our dates back and like hanging out. And then pretty soon I was like, I had always, the main thing that I pivoted with and did to support myself during this was something that I had been thinking about doing for a very long time, but I never pulled the trigger on because I just couldn't figure out a way to. The way I do things is like I really need I need to be really inspired, and like it needs to make sense. I'm not going to just do something just to do it. And like for example, like I needed to do this to make money, but I couldn't let it be about the money. I needed it to be about the love for doing it. You know what I mean? So I for a year or so, I'd been jotting down ideas of how to open up a Patreon and what I would do and stuff like that. But just nothing for me like felt like this is just, a cash grab, and that's not why I do things. And experiencing the way some of my peers at the time were running their Patreons, and, oftentimes people will kind of try and do the littlest amount of work for the greater return. That's just not me, So I just couldn't figure out something that I would vibe with. And then when COVID happened, this thing naturally came out of me where I got inspired to stay in touch with people. And I just kind of thought of this as a way for people to continue to have access to me and like my whatever, and in different levels of access. You can join on a small level, you can join on a small level where you're reading weekly posts from me, and like, and a lot of it's all personal stuff that I wouldn't post anywhere else, and all the way up to the top levels is like those people are texting with me every day. And I named the two top levels, the best friend level and the family level, but I named it those things for a reason, because I did not, I knew that I would become so close with these people that they would become family and best friends, and they all have. And I knew that, those people get into like shows for free and like will be hanging out with me backstage at shows. I knew, I only do that for my best friends and for my family. But I knew that like when I put myself into something with my heart for the right reasons, and lead with love, like I know that these people are going to become best friends and family, and they all have. And now, of course, they're going to be in my backstage hanging out with me. You know what I mean? So, when shows open back up. So yeah, I mean, I pivoted and I just was like, I'm going to do this now. And it's been awesome for me because it's kept me kind of sane. I can't not imagine where I would be mentally if I did not have this little community and group of people. We all support one another. It's a place for me to be myself with people who appreciate me and people who I appreciate. And if I did not have that during this time, I really think I'd be in like a much weirder place than I am, you know?
Well, I have to say, out of all the Patreon channels, like I was looking around, but I love yours. I mean, you know, you're one of my favorite drummers, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna join up because I'm a huge Lord of the Lost fan, and you were doing this interview with Chris Harms. But I have to say, like on social media, you're one of the most genuine musicians, and your Patreon is so filled with like genuine stuff. I keep saying genuine, but it's the only way I can describe it. And you're so endearing as well, and your social media is so funny because you are hilarious at Photoshop. I love it. They always make me smile when I see it. I'm just like, this guy's crazy, but I love it. And I love the little interviews you do. And so personally, I would recommend anyone who's a fan of yours to go sign up to this, because I'm definitely there. And if you sign up, you will see me putting comments as sexual harassment panda. I do not harass people, and I don't identify as a panda most of the week, but on weekends, you know. But I love your channel. I think it's absolutely amazing. So the next thing I really want to kind of ask you about is the challenges of when you go back on tour, because I have a source at Ticketmaster who said the logistics of getting bands back on the road, they've all had all these delayed gigs, is going to be a nightmare, and they're not sure what to do. And I think the singer from Three Teeth, Alexis Mincola, he said he couldn't even book a tour bus for next year. And I'm just like, you're obviously touring with Rammstein. I mean, what's that going to be like? What are these logistical problems going to be?
When you're touring with a band like this, those are the ones that don't have the problems. I mean, you know, when it's that's just the way it is. Like the hierarchy and the money involved in something like that, like Live Nation and all the venues are going to make sure that those shows are going to happen, and that the buses are going to be reserved for those tours. I mean, that's just how it is. You know, I can give you some insight into, you know, aesthetic perfection, for example. I think that we're lucky. That we have a booking agent. We have, you know, a booking agent in the US and also another booking agent in Europe. And it seems that all the bands that kind of had tours booked and announced when all this happened kind of have a leg up on anything else, because the venues kept trying to roll the shows over and secure you know, reserve more for future dates for the tours to still happen, because there's already some money involved and invested in a lot of the stuff that was already like on sale and everything like that, right? So I think that the shows that have been already on sale specifically and like making, you know, generating income are going to be the ones that happen first. And then, you know, if you have a booking agent, those people are going to be the people that kind of have the in with the promoters or Live Nation that will get first shot at the gigs. You know, it's all the bands. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time with, like you said, like the tour bus situation or whatever. I haven't even thought about that, honestly. I just feel like it'll work itself out. I mean, you know, there was a period of my life where I feel like, you know, most musicians, if you grow up wanting to do this ever since you're a kid, you go through a period of like, you know, you grow, you get to a point where you're in a tour bus, and then you're like, yeah, I'm in a tour bus. And then like, you never want to go back from being in a tour bus a lot of time. But me, I don't care if we got to go in a Honda Civic, I'll do it. I just love to travel, honestly. And it's funny, like I should say too, a lot of people ask me about touring with Rammstein and say like, oh, well, like, what's it like for you? You're not playing drums. And honestly, the answer I always give is like, I don't care. Like, I get just as stoked when I'm getting those guys ready to go on stage and I'm walking the stage with them and I hear 80,000 people going bananas as if it was me going on stage, because I'm a part of that machine. And, you know, it's very special to be inside that inner circle with those guys. And I just, and the point being is like, I just love to travel and be a part of a team. And I get just as much out of working for them as I would out of being, in my own band. Yeah, I do enjoy to play drums, but I don't need to do it all the time.
But you've wangled your way onto the airplane with Rammstein. You ain't doing no tour buses no more. Aren't you flying with the band,
Oh
Mister?
yeah. Yeah, but if they were like, well, we're going to do tour buses again, I'd be like, yeah, of course. Well, whatever. Do you want me to drive myself in a Winnebago? I'll do it. Like, I don't care. I just like to travel, have a place to eat every day, hang out with my buddies.
Let's go, right? Come on, let's go. Go
Yes.
with the plane. Okay, so I assume that answers my next question. You're going to be on tour with Rammstein again. There's no scheduling conflicts. You're definitely going to be there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we do try to book things around my touring with them, like when we can, I know that, excuse me, I know that, how many summers ago was it when we were supposed to be, it was like 2 summers ago was supposed to be the second leg of the Rammstein tour. And we had a couple or 3 AP dates that were going to conflict, and we were trying to move those on because they were all festivals. So like really I could have, if Rammstein was playing, Rammstein's only doing like 1 or 2, maybe 3 shows a week, but usually it's like 2. And on the upcoming stuff, it's like 2 back-to-backs, and then you're off for a week and then 2 back, so it's like I have a lot of downtime where I can fly and do shows. So I think we're, since summer's festival time, we're going to try and continue and do that stuff. But, I'll always, Daniel and I have talked about that, and as long as he wants me involved in the band, I'll remain involved in the band, and I have people prepared to fill in for me as needed, and I'll always help with anything, and like I like to look at it, even though it's his band, like he's letting me like kind of partner with him on a lot of the a lot of the growth, and I just love that, even if I tomorrow was like, I can't be in your band anymore, but I would still want to do what I do. I just love it. I just love helping my friends and like being involved in stuff with good people, so yeah, I think Rammstein is my my priority, and but I'm working with a good band and a good team that's willing to work around my priority and keep me involved as much as possible.
So, okay, that then leads me on to my next question. What have you got in the pipeline? Now we're all getting vaccinated. Now there is some hope on the horizon. I don't want to jinx it, but there's hope on the horizon. I'm supposed to be going to a metal festival to cover it this year, but I don't even want to get my hopes up. But yeah, so now we kind of are at the end of the tunnel. What's in the pipeline for you? Where are we going to be seeing you next year?
I mean, I know that there's like there's a AP tour being booked in Europe. I don't know that I'll be doing anything in the States before I do Europe, and then the summer with Rammstein. I'm just it's wild after the first year of this situation, when things kept getting pushed like more and more, and it was just like more time, and it felt like such a big amount of time. I don't know about you, but like the longer this has gone on, I feel like time is actually going by faster now somehow. And like when finally it was like, okay, the Rammstein tour is not happening this summer, but it's going to happen next summer, I was like, oh, that's right around the corner. That's how it feels to me. I'm like, that's going to be basically feeling like 2 or 3 months from now. So I'm just kind of like, okay.
I can't agree with that, only because I went to see Rammstein for the first time in Munich. I saw you doing your stuff at the front of the stage. And I went and I got seats, and that was a huge mistake. And so I got tickets. I sat refreshing the browser, and I got tickets to the Fire Zone, and it was meant to be down in England, and then they cancelled it. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And then all the other shows got cancelled, and then they kept pushing back the Rammstein one. And I feel like going to the Fire Zone is like a rite of passage if you're a Rammstein fan. I'm totally prepared to die of heat exhaustion. I was
Yeah.
excited for it, but every time it got pushed back, my heart died a little bit inside. And then, I mean, I was okay about other gigs, but for some reason, Rammstein actually broke my will to keep going, and everything else has gone past really fast, but not waiting for Rammstein, I have to say.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. It's definitely a special experience for sure, and I miss it terribly. But I'm thankful that I have something to look forward to. When I get weird is when I don't have something to look forward to. Like if I, like a lot of times whenever I was in a band that was finishing a tour cycle for a record, and then it was like, oh, well, when's the next record going to be done? Who knows? And then you don't know when you're touring again. Like I don't ever mind ending a tour as long as I know, oh yeah, 2 weeks from now I'm going back out, or 3 months from now I'm going back out. Like I have something to look forward to. But whenever I end a tour and you don't know when you're traveling again and doing that again, I get weird. I get like a little depression and stuff, So for me, I just know I have stuff to look forward to, So I'm easy. I'm rolling with the punches, and I'm just trying to remain positive because there's a lot of people out there right now who are having a hard time remaining positive, and I think that if you have the ability to remain positive for other people and to be there for them and to just be a ray of shining light on some situations, it's important right now. So
Yeah, I completely sympathize with that. And having hope is such an important thing. And it was so easy for your mental health to kind of slip during this period. But you had to be strong. You're a cat daddy. You have to keep it together for your cats, if anything. So, I mean, we kind of touched on touring, and what I'd really like to know, when you're traveling, what do you have to have in your tour bag? Like, what's the one thing you can't live without when you're on tour?
probably ibuprofen. I really put my body, it's terrible to say, but I really put my body through the ringer when I'm playing. And I've experienced a lot of injuries, and I have some spinal issues and stuff. And I go to neurologists and get they put needles in your arms and your back, and they test the electric signals and stuff. And that, it seems like I'm going to need to have spinal surgery eventually and all this stuff. And it hurts to go on stage, so I need to take ibuprofen before I go on stage every night. And sometimes I forget to take it, and then when I'm like playing, I feel my brain shaking in my head, and I'm like, oh man, I forgot to take my ibuprofen. Like an old man. It's just like, where's my aspirin? But yeah, probably that. And like what else? I don't know. That's such a funny question to ask me, because I'm the guy on the tour that, like, every time we come across a truck stop or a Walmart, I'll spend hundreds of dollars on stuff I don't need. And I just like before I know it, I have like the best bunk in the bus, and everyone's like, wow, oh yeah, you got a fan and a special blanket and like all this, lights and stuff. And I just need to like be comfortable, and like to be able to, there's a lot of people that just like roll into a bus and then like never really make it their home and roll out of it. And like, I'm the opposite. I need it to be super, like, I need to feel like this is my home, and this is like, my home for a while. I really love being on the bus and like sleeping in. You either love that or you hate it. And I really love it. Like, it's always shaking and everything, and it's dark, and like, it just makes me sleep better. Some people, it makes them not sleep, but not for me. I get home and then I have a hard time sleeping in a stationary bed.
It's like you make your little nest, you make your little den, and then you're really cozy. But before we go on, I have to say, hearing that you have to take ibuprofen for going on stage, I feel so sad, because one of my favorite things about watching you drum is the performance. Like, the way I think of you is like this taiko Japanese master. When they're like there and they're drumming and it's just such a performance. I mean, the energy you exude on stage. I mean, I should have probably guessed you were on ibuprofen, because no human should be able to do that with their body. But it kind of makes me sad that you're out there killing yourself for our entertainment. You should be like Russell Crowe at the end. Are you not entertained?
Well, I didn't say like, I'm going to do this thing that's going to hurt, so I'm going to take things that are going to make me not hurt so I could do it. I mean, I just always did this. And then eventually I was like, man, I kind of hurt. So I better start taking some stuff, I don't know. I feel like I need to say this, but for those who don't know what ibuprofen is, it's like an over-the-counter painkiller, like Tylenol or something. There are some countries where like ibuprofen is illegal, which is like bizarre to me, because ibuprofen does not do anything to your it doesn't fuck with your, it doesn't make you fucked up. It's like some people treat it, like talk about it like it does that. It doesn't do that. It just makes it makes swelling go down and makes you like, your pain receptors kind of like turn off a little bit. That's it.
For anyone who is listening and worrying, it's non-prescription, it's over the counter, and I take it after yoga if I've gone a little too hard.
Yeah. But as far as what you said, like the thing is, I, it's just what happens to me. Like, when I'm playing the drums, I go into this place that is just super primal, and I just like kind of tap into something that's inside my soul, and that just comes out of me. And I just feel like I'm becoming a part of the music, and almost like my body is like a graphic equalizer to, and it's how I express myself. And so it's hard not to do that. I've had so many injuries where, I'm in the hospital and the doctors are like, how did you do this? And I explain it and they're like, you can't do that anymore. And I'm like, in my head right away, I'm like, I don't know how to not do that, and it's like, that's kind of a little bit of a scary thing, to be honest with you, because I know that I'm going to have these problems down the road. And, there's a bunch of drummers that play the way, there's a small little group of drummers that play the way that I do, that all have also experienced a lot of the same things. They're a little bit older than me. They're like, I look up to them. A lot of them are my friends and peers now. And they're all like, say the same thing. They're like, yeah, you're fucked, So I just kind of like accept it and know that, like, I'm fulfilling my soul's purpose, and this is what I was put here to do. And when I'm performing like that, that's when I'm most aligned with my soul's purpose. And the side effects of all of that will be dealt with down the road, but I cannot not give that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm meant to do.
Totally. I've like tried to describe your drumming to people, and the only description I could come up with, I was like, it's kind of like an exorcism mixed with anger management therapy, and I was like, I can't describe it. Like, I could never find the words. But I remember the first time I ever saw you perform was with Combi Christ in Glasgow.
Mhm.
I just remember like Andy's there prowling around the stage, growling at people, and everyone's doing their thing. But I just saw you, and I was like, God damn, you pulled focus completely, because it's such a full body experience, if that makes sense. And I was kind of like, everyone in the front row was like getting drumsticks like whew, past the head. But it's wonderful. I love watching you drum, and I will make a huge effort to try and get to see you next year as much as possible before you have to possibly retire from performing that style, because it truly is like, I sound like a fangirl. Oh God.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. But I want to say, I do have like a time frame in my mind for like when I think that I'm gonna like not be able to do this anymore. And I'm 40 now, and I consider that I should be able to still hang pretty tight for the next 10 years. I'm hoping to have still a career in music into my 50s and 60s, like all these bigger bands that like become legacy acts eventually. So. And if I can't play anymore, I'm going to learn how to do sound, or I'll tour manage or something, because I just want to go on tour and like hang out and travel. I have so many friends all over the world now. It's like,
Well, your genuine enthusiasm for it, it just seriously like shines through, which is, I love you, because some performers, you just get that feeling, I don't know, it's not as authentic, and it's really obvious, whereas like with you, it's like you can just tell, you're like, this dude loves what he does. And I that's one of the reasons I really enjoy watching you. So I think we just got completely off topic, so I'm gonna try and go back on topic. Well, okay, right. This is what I wanted to know. What is like the nicest thing a fan's ever done for you? Because like I hear loads of stories where people do really weird stuff at like meet and greets. Like I think that drag queen Katia from RuPaul's Drag Race, somebody brought her a freeze-dried leg. So
well, like a human leg?
yes, she wasn't allowed to keep it.
Oh wow.
Well, I'm just wondering, like, what's the nicest thing fans ever done for you that you were like in that moment? You were just like, I can't believe somebody did this for me, and then tell me what the weirdest one was.
Oh my God. That's a tough question to ask, because there's so many people that have done nice things. I mean, one of the best things actually that's like super super cool that does happen often, is when people will make themselves available to like show you their city. That's like the biggest gift ever, because especially for me, I don't like party anymore. I don't drink or go bananas on tour anymore. And the first 12 or 13 years of, maybe a little more, of touring, when I was like just partying and I didn't see the world, and I felt so stupid when I got my shit together, and I just was like, wow, like I can't believe I took all this for granted. Like going to all these places that people would like give anything to go to, and like and it's not only is it free, but I'm getting paid to do it, and like here I am just pissing it away and like getting wasted at a bar and blacking out, not even half the time remembering the show. So I go out of my way to go and see as much of each city as I can now. And if you look, there's always like some fans that are willing to make themselves available to take you to do that stuff. And that's awesome. That's just the best thing ever. So, and then they know like the cool local stuff to do too, that like, I can look up like what to do and then go do that stuff. But then they're always like, no, you got to do this and this and this, and like all the good places to eat and like places that you can't like really get to that easily. Like those are the best. Those are the best things. Honestly, like, and like I said, it's countless times that I remember now that people have done that, but that's always the biggest gift, I'd say. And then,
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I hate asking this question because I think favorites change over time and it's really hard to have like a static opinion on something. But at this very moment, what city were you just like, wow, this city, oh my goodness?
my favorite city is Budapest.
Really? Why?
Um, my story with Budapest is funny. I when I was growing up, I grew up in Long Island, and all my friends were Jewish, Italian, and Muslim, and I was Catholic, German, Irish, and Hungarian. I didn't know anyone else who was Hungarian, but I just wanted to be what all my friends were. So I actually used to lie and say I was Jewish so that I could go to the Jewish youth club with my friends. And then I hung out a lot with my Muslim friends as well, and would go visit mosques with them and stuff like that. I was always just really interested in different things. And I totally forgot the question you just asked me. Ask me again.
Why is Budapest like one of your absolute favorites?
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. So, and a lot of my friends were Italian too. Like, and they would wear Italian horns around their neck. I don't know if you know what that is. It's like this, and I went and bought one, and I would wear it too because I wanted to like be Italian like my friends. So, whenever anyone asked me what I was, which for it's funny to talk about that for people in Europe, that when I've learned that like, if I say to someone in Germany, like, I'm German too, they're like, no, you're not, you're American. You know what I mean? But like America's a newer country, and a lot of our ancestors came over during, the World War II or even World War I. And so my ancestors were I'm 50% Hungarian, a quarter German, and a quarter Irish. But I'd never met anyone else that was Hungarian. So growing up, when it's normal here to ask people what are you, So I always said German and Irish. And then the very first tour I ever did, the very first show I ever played on my first tour was in Germany. I don't remember where. I could look it up. The second show was in Budapest. And I just had the best time of my life that night. We played on this boat, which I've now played on dozens of times. It's like in the river, and it's this venue that's like in the bottom of this boat, and it's always an awesome show. And then at the time, we played, and then after the show, we went across the street to this like open air nightclub, and they were playing like 80s and 90s music. And I'm not a dancer, but I was dancing all night, and we stayed there until the sun came up. And I was looking around, and I was like, these people all look like me. And I was like, I'm Hungarian. And I just was like, I became so proud to be Hungarian. And I was like, I can't. And I was like embarrassed that I like didn't want to like tell people I was Hungarian before. So every time since then I've been there, I just always have this feeling there. I don't know what it is. And I have to say, like, I haven't ever had the best look at getting awesome food there, which usually is like, oh, I love to eat in this place and that place. And I'm always like, man, it's hard to find good food here sometimes. Maybe I just need to find the right local to show me. But I just always have this like feeling of home in that city. I don't know what it is. And the very last time that I was there, it was such a random experience. And I've always felt this way about Hungary ever since that day. But this last time I was there, I was like, I just started dating my girlfriend. It was the very last combi tour that I did, and she'd come with me on the tour. And then I started doing my first few AP shows, but they were all spaced a week apart. So I took her with me to Europe, and I was like, let's just hang out and we'll have different vacations all over the place. We'll spend a week in Prague. We'll spend a week in London. We did all this stuff. And we at one point had a show in Hungary. So we played the show in Hungary, but it was like up in the woods. So then the next day we came back to Budapest, and we just stayed in Budapest for that night. And then the next day we went to Prague for the week. And I wound up really wishing that we stayed in Budapest, because the experience that I had that evening was just insane. So let me tell you about it, because it was like one of my best days of my life, really. So my girlfriend and I, her name's Emma, and we really like to go to spas and like, bathhouses and like get like massages and go in saunas and stuff like that, which isn't so much a culture in America as it is in Europe. So we do that a lot with the Rammstein guys, and then I'd never really done it as outside of being with them. And I knew that that Budapest was like a place that was famous for this type of culture, right? So we plan to go to this big famous like out spa, which if you look up like Budapest spa, like you'll find it. It's like that one, you know what I mean?
I do know that one, and this is gonna sound so creepy. I saw it on your Instagram.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say I saw you there that day.
I saw pictures on your Instagram, and I actually thought, I really want to go there. That place looks beautiful. So, oh god, I sound like such a creepy stalker.
Not that. Look, I look at your Instagram too. It's okay. We all look at each other's Instagram. That's what Instagram's for. So we were like, oh, let's take the train. It was like 4 or 5 miles, which is like a pretty far walk, like away from the hotel. And I think we took the train over the bridge. And then I was like, let's just walk, like see how far we can get. And we wound up walking the whole way there. And the whole time I was just like, this place is I love this city. And when we had the day at the spa, and then we decided to walk all the way back to the hotel. And again, it's like 5 miles, right? And as we're getting we were staying right on the other side of the river. So as we were which is like kind of like the city center area. And as we're getting back to the walk over the bridge, more and more people are like gathering in the street and walking. And I'm just like, not even noticing at first, but like gradually there's just like all these people walking in the street. And I'm like, what is going on? And we finally get to the bridge, and people are just like lined up, stopped on the bridge, looking over. And I look around, and you see all the bridges, and there's just packed with people. So we just like stopped, and we waited, and slowly the bridges got completely full. And then we're just standing in these seas of people. And we gathered that there was like some sort of an Independence Day. And I didn't even know about this holiday. We just happened to be there. And then all of a sudden they just started doing all these fireworks all up and down the whole river, and singing all these songs and playing music for hours. And it was like, this is just a magical moment. Like we didn't even know, and it was just a sign to me that like, this is like, this is, I don't know. I just really feel like my ancestors' souls are there, like being like, you're in your home.
I'm gonna say, do you feel like your DNA is taking over and you're like,
yeah,
homecoming?
I do. It's really weird.
Oh my goodness. So just mentioning your girlfriend, Emma, I noticed that you're teaching her to drum. What is that like? And are we possibly maybe see you two on stage together?
That's funny. You know what it's like? It's like living in a 24-hour drum lesson. That's what it's like. She's really extreme, and she's very, very driven in anything that she does. She's like, I mean, she's a hairstylist and a hair colorist, and she's great. And she's been great ever since she was basically a child, because her parents were professionals in the same field, and they were very successful. So she just grew up with this work ethic, and anything that she does 110%. And when she was like, I want to learn drums, I can't tell you how many times like someone was like, want to learn drums, and then it's like, okay, well, all right, well, let's try it, and then they don't talk about it again. But not her. She, and she wants to learn, I'm thinking like of the songs I learned when I was first playing drums, what's easy songs and stuff. And she's like, okay, but I want to learn these songs, and they're really hard songs. And I'm like, no, you can't learn those. But sure enough, she's figuring it out, and it's making me learn those songs too. So it's funny, but it's like, it's very intense is the answer, because she's just like, I'll come home from the studio at night all exhausted, and she'll be like sitting there with a drum pad, and she'll be like, can you look at my fingers and make sure I'm holding the sticks right? How do I do this? Can we go back to the studio? And I'm just like, oh my God, like this is like a lot. But I got her a drum set for Christmas, and like she's making great use of it. So I'm proud of her.
That's amazing. I love that. But sometimes they're like couples and teaching each other, it can get in, like you're saying, intense, but occasionally explode. Have you guys had any fireworks, or has it all been a smooth journey so far?
You mean with learning the
Yeah,
drum,
sometimes
or our relationship?
like when couples are like, oh, he's teaching me so and so, or she's teaching me this. Like, I one time was trying to teach my boyfriend Mandarin, and it went horrendous. So to speak. I think at one point I was ready to throw a dictionary at his head. So I'm just wondering if like you guys have had moments of tension.
If the moments happen, it's her being hard on herself, and yeah, no, she tries to do things, and she'll be like, fuck, and she does it again, fuck, and she'll scream a little bit, but she's yeah, I mean, she's very, very focused and disciplined with it all. So
Oh, and like I was just wondering, is there a chance maybe we'll see you guys on stage? Like maybe she could come along and just join you for a little encore or something, because that would be amazing to see.
yeah, I'll say yes.
Okay. So, on to the real stuff now. Let's get to the real questions that people want to know. Tell me about your cats.
My cat story is kind of funny. I used to really despise cats. I grew up being really allergic to them, and I never had a great relationship with one. And the only experience I really ever had with them was them attacking my dogs when I would walk my dogs. I always had pit bulls growing up and into my adult life. I did, for some reason, I just love pit bulls. Like I fall in love with every single pit bull that I see. There's something about them. They're just so beautiful to me. And I used to have two, and I was living in Brooklyn, in like a not so great part of Brooklyn, and like and often there would be a lot of street cats, and they would attack my dogs, and like my dogs would of course murder the cats, but I would hold the dogs up, and they're both like 80 pounds, and I'm holding both of them. I'm like skinny dude with these cats going bananas, and like I was just terrified of these things. They would fucking just be like, and I was just like not into cats. And then my last roommate had a cat that I lived with that was really grumpy, and like I don't know what it was about that cat. I just kind of like I was like, this cat's interesting. I want to make it like me. And I just like made it my mission. And then I had this like unique relationship with this cat. And then it kind of dawned on me that like cats are just really quirky and weird. And like, and also for some reason, I never linked that they were like that they were related with tigers and lions. To me, they were two different kinds of animals. And then one day I was like, they're like little fucking tigers. They're little miniature tigers. And I was like, that's so cool, and they're just so weird and different. And they have such interesting personalities. And I got really kind of obsessed with them. And then one day I was just going to move my girlfriend's car really early in the morning. Cause where I live, like if you park on the street, you need to, they do street sweeping and stuff certain days. And I was like, oh fuck, I got to go move the car. It's like 6 a.m. and I'm like getting out of bed, and I go and these two black cats just walk up to me right by her car, and they're tiny. And I'm just like, and my body just started lowering itself to the ground, and I think I literally said out loud, "What am I doing? What am I doing?" It was like my body was going uncontrolled, and I just got down, and one of them jumped on my lap, and the other one was like brushing against me, and I was like, and I FaceTimed Emma, and I was like, "Yo, these two cats are out here," and she was like, "Don't let them out of your sight," because she wanted the cat so bad, and she ran outside, and then by then I had put him in the car. And that was it. And then I had these two little guys, and I didn't even realize that she had thumbs. Actually, she has thumbs. And I figured out that they were boy and girl, which isn't so easy to do. But when they're kittens, but because I remember the vet being impressed with me, I was like, "I think this one's a boy, and I think this one's a girl." And she was like, "You're right." And she was like, "Oh, and this one has thumbs." And I was like, "Do all cats not have thumbs? I don't know." And then I saw like these little, and there's, I don't know what it is, but it just makes her 10 times cuter. It's just so cute. And yeah, and now that's it. They're like they're in our family now. And then about a year ago we got one more cat, which is Oatmeal, who's kind of like the bully man of the house now, and he's like bigger than the other cats. He's like a big boy. But yeah, they all get along. I feel like they all pick on Ella a little bit, like when they're like feeling, like raging, they're just like picking on the little one a little, and she's hissing, and I try to save her, and I'm like, "Oh, I got you, baby," and then she runs off and fucks with them more. So I think they're all just having fun. I don't know, but it's great. Having cats is such a gift, I have to say. I can't imagine my life without them now.
Oh no, I'm the same. Love cats. Got my big Maine Coon. He just makes my world. He's so sweet. He's not even like a cat. He's more like a dog. And he's a boy, so he's a complete Lothario. He thinks all women love him. He flirts with the vets. Not normal. But I've got to ask. So, are they mummy's cats or daddy's cats? Like I've found with all pets, they tend to have a preference. When my dogs picked not me, my heart was broken. I don't show it, but it really cut deep.
So I I I the two black ones are daddy's, definitely, and then Oatmeal is a mommy's boy. For me, I Carl is the big brother to Ella, and he's like a normal sized cat, I guess, and he does not love. He likes to be left alone, but I get it, and I know how to read him, and I respect him, and I like go over and I like give him a little attention here and there just to let him know I love him, and I leave him alone. And this makes him come to me a lot more, and he actually comes to me whenever she's not in the house. He'll come, and like he actually will sit right here on my, I usually have notebooks here, and I'm doing all my work and stuff, and he'll just like lay on there and just start playing with me. And he never does that like when anyone else is around. He actually doesn't even do it when the other cats are around. If the other cat comes in the room, he's like, he stops. So, and then Ella, she does this thing whenever I sit on the couch, she just needs to be on my lap, and like she rolls around and bites me, and and then Oatmeal I try to like bro down with, and he does sleep on top of me, but I have a feeling that's some kind of like a dominance thing where he's like, "Yeah, fuck, you're sleeping and I'm the king. I'm the king of this mountain," is what he's saying. But I try to cuddle with him and stuff, and then Emma laughs, and she's like, "Come here," and he just like goes to her and climbs on her and everything. He doesn't do that with me, so that's how.
It doesn't hurt. I'm fine.
No, I'm easy.
Oh, and I do have a last question. Right, so your character. The first time I saw you, you were in full character, and I remember thinking, WTF, what's going on here? And since then, I've seen your shows where you come out in full costume, you might say. Where did this character originate from, and are we going to see her again? Because I love it. I do love the pageantry of it all, so.
I think, I've always been in bands where it was like normal to wear some makeup or do this, that, or the other thing, and then I've always been, I remember as a kid, I've always been really drawn to really theatrical bands as well. And this thing just kind of happened to me when I got sober like 5 years ago, and I'd been dressing up like for shows and doing stuff. But then once once I got sober, I found myself with all this extra energy on tour. And like one day I was in Dallas in Texas, and everyone was like out at a bar before the show. And I was just in the dressing room all by myself. And I always when I said I go to truck stops and Walmart and all this stuff, I always buy all this stuff for ideas. I'm always like, that could be cool one day. And blah, blah. I'm like that kind of like hoard buyer of bullshit. And this is always the stuff that seems to somehow birth eventually some new character or character trait that I bring out on stage to harness some type of energy inside my body, which is like, I'll talk about that in a second. But I found myself in Dallas in the dressing room at Trees Lounge all by myself with all this extra time. And I was just like, I had a suitcase full of bullshit. And I was like, I'm going to dress up like Ronald McDonald right now. And I just did it. And everyone came back and they were like, whoa. And then I was just like, oh, I'm going to do it again tomorrow and like perfect it. And then I noticed when I was doing this, like, I was doing things that like kind of weren't, it became more of my expression than an expression that I'll say fit in with the band, because I don't know, it became a way for me to a different outlet for me, and I just found myself taking it to like new levels and being really inspired by it, because every time that I do something else or change my character or something, it brings something else out of me. Like, the Slipknot dudes, it's interesting. I remember I've been friends with a couple of those guys since they first started. And I was always like super curious about like it always seemed really neat to me that they could wear a mask and no one knew who they were. And they could just be this character, and that's what happens, honestly. Like, my latest, the characters have evolved over time, and my latest character was so far, my favorite, and like saw me expressing myself in the most unique way. I've learned that like I'll always try and do some things that are super uncomfortable. Like with Nancy, I wear this thing in my mouth that kept my mouth open, and it's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable. Everyone asks, how do you do this for an hour and a half? And I'm like, yeah, it sucks, but that's a part of it. It needs to suck. Like the first time I did it, I put that whole look together before a show in Vegas. And I was getting ready again by myself, and I had all this stuff, and I was just like threw it all on, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then I went on stage and I was like, I'm going to leave this thing in my mouth the whole show. And pretty soon I needed to drink water. And I was like, how the fuck am I going to drink water? And I just picked up the water bottle and I just threw it in my mouth, and then I put it down and I kept playing, and water just went all over the place. And that became a part of her character, and like, and I naturally just began even more performing with water, and like, things, I'm wearing girls' underwear that are too small for me, and it makes me feel really uncomfortable, and they're going up my butt, and the whole time I'm like wiggling around. And this becomes a part of the character, you know what I mean? So yes, I'd say that you will be introduced to new characters down the road. I have one that I've been working on for quite a while now, because Nancy is unfortunately been kidnapped. No one knows where she is. I heard that she's gone. She's been seen on the hard streets of New Orleans. She's looking a little rough, and I think. I think that, she might have a cousin that's like, gonna show her face kind of soon, and for sure probably be somehow more extreme than Nancy was. That seems to be how it goes. So
living for that moment. I can't wait. If it's more extreme than Nancy, it's gonna be intense. I really can't wait. I don't know why, but I always had this image of you like raiding your girlfriend's underwear drawer and being like, oh, I'll take this. I'm going on tour with that. Have you ever just been like, Emma, give me that dress. I need this.
It's really funny you should say that, because the other day the other day I was doing the garbages in the house. I'm like the chore guy for a lot of well, she does a lot of things too, but like I do the garbages and the laundry and the dishes because she cooks, you know. And the other day I was doing the garbages and she was throwing out a dress that I actually really liked on her, and I was like, oh, why is she throwing this dress out? And I like, and I was like, well, I'm sure if I'm going to ask her, she's going to, because she's like, wants to get rid of things. She doesn't like to like hold on to things and stuff. Like, so and I like to hold on to things. So this is like a constant, you know, and I knew that if I asked her, like, maybe you should hold on to that dress, I really like that dress, she'd be like, no, I want it. You throw it out right now. So I hid it. She's going to watch this and now know, but I have it in my drawer upstairs because I was like, I actually tried it on. I tried on the dress and I was like, I could use this one day, and I now am keeping it. I have just like little stockpiles of women's underwear and clothes and everything all over the place, from like, you know, ideas and things that I never used before all over. I even find it like in my parents' house when I'm like, I still have stuff in the garage that I never took when I moved out when I was 18, and every once in a while I go there and I try and clean it out and, like, you know, throw things away and stuff, and I always come across like bags of, you know, women's lingerie and stuff, and I'm like, oh, wild. You know, I love it.
Suits me. I absolutely love that. I'm tempted to tag her in this and be like, guess what? But at the same time, it would be so funny if the first time she saw it was when you like appear on stage in her dress and she's like, that motherfucker, that's my dress. I told him to throw this out. I absolutely love that. That is the best. I'm so glad you told me that, because I always wondered. But I honestly think we've covered everything. But you know what I would love? Just here's a moment. Tell everybody where to follow you. Tell everyone your handles. Tell everyone to follow you, because I've already been saying everyone should follow you. And oh no, wait! I have one last question. Who do you think won the the photo battle with Lord of the Lost? I was following that very much. Who do you think won? And be honest. And which picture do you think pushed it over the edge? Last question, I swear.
Look, I feel like when they posted their last picture of with their dicks out, with a crowd behind them, I looked at that, and before anyone else saw it, I was in the dressing room with the rest of my band, and I said, guys, we just lost. But I will say, and this is a challenge, and I will remind Chris and the rest of those guys, I still have yet to see the unblurred photo, so I don't really know if their dicks were out. So the answer is, if their dicks were actually out, then they won. But if they just put those little pixely boxes over their dick areas, then we won. But I will say that they really do go above and beyond in everything that they do. So I'm going to guess that they actually took their dicks out. So
You know what? Last thing, I would love to see you go on tour or do some sort of collaboration with Lord of the Lost. It would be absolutely amazing. I would just love that. Please.
Yeah. We've been talking about it for a while, actually. We're both so busy. They seem to be a lot more busy, and it's just been a little bit hard to line things up with them, but we're slowly getting, you know, Daniel and Chris in the room together to write music together. Ultimately, what I would love to see is, like, I would love for us to like write a record together, or at least do like a versus EP where we're both like, you know, there's a mix of songs and we're both a little working on each other's songs, and it's, you know, this kind of a thing. And then I would love to do a tour in the US and in Europe where we're performing that all together, you know. I'd love to take it to South America and Australia and everywhere else too, you know. But yeah, we're still talking about it heavily. And actually, Chris is super excited to figure it out too. And he's someone, he's very special to me. And whenever we get together, we're just very inspired by one another, and we're really like, we just feed off of one another, and we're like that. Every time we talk about it, it just becomes cooler and cooler and cooler. So, you know, I hope that, you know, within the next year or two, we will be announcing something like this.
Well, if you do, you know I'm coming straight back to you for an interview. That would be like my dream to see you both on stage together. I'd be such a happy girl.
What we'll do is you can do the interview in person, and I will dress up like Chris, and Chris will dress up like me, and then we'll do the interview as each other.
Amazing. I would love that. How about
Long answers only.
a cat? I'll come in a cat costume, so we're all dressed up. Okay, Joey, Joey, which do you prefer, by the way?
For people that I like, Joey. So you can call me Joe. See what I did there? No, you can call me Joey.
Tell me, that's so cruel. Okay, Joe, thank you so much for talking to me. I really appreciate this. It's absolutely fantastic to actually get to talk to my favorite drummer, so I'm a happy, happy girl. Thank you so much. Have a great night, okay?
Okay, you too. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Well, that's one of my dreams fulfilled, and I'm so ready to see Joe playing again live. I hope you enjoyed this episode, so please like and subscribe, and until next time, you stay classy.